YouTube, you already know what it is, baby. We back at it again. I've got a spicy Elfnote branded deck profile. Fresh sleeves, 42 card main. It's lean, it's mean, it's to the point. Some of the best cards. Every single card in ratio has a purpose. Recently took this out to Toronto Original. Didn't do as hot as I did, but honestly, I think this is like a top 8 finisher right here in terms of like deck quality. I revised it a little bit post Banlist, of course, just because the Toronto Regional was in the like full power Dracotail branded format with Cool Tune and Mitsurugi and Sky Striker and all that jazz. So the format was definitely a little bit of a toss format, I would say, for the list. But now the format is shaping up in a very particular type of direction. So the list is definitely optimized post Banlist for Blaze League Dominion format. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it. The regional, I did fine. I did like X3 in 8 rounds, but honestly, all the losses were either just like circus show brick hands, so like uncontrollable losses, and it always went to game 3. So it was either like dice roll dependent into like a matchup where I didn't see like the right non-engine, and then or it was just like I'm doing good, I win the dice, I just like brick hands. Like, I kid you not, against Dracotail, I saw like a hand game 1 after I won dice. It was 3 imperm, Ginaldo, and then the trap. So like, what are you gonna do there? And all they had was like Brand Fusion, Raho, so they were playing through the imperm interruptions anyways. And then game 3 I saw like 3 Ash, which was kind of insane as well. So yeah, kind of an unfortunate regional. And then I didn't actually see as much Cool Tune as I expected. I saw more like Mitsurugi and Sky Striker, which were some of my losses, unfortunately. So yeah, I've re-optimized a little bit to still beat Cool Tune, but still keeping in mind like Mitsurugi and the Sky Strikers of the format, and even things such as branded. So yeah, let's get right into it. It's 42 list. First and foremost, I did do 3 of the Regina. I actually pulled this the Starlight. Nothing to explain there. You have to max her out. She's probably one of the best additions to the deck. The heart and soul of the deck, I would say, right after Lucina. Lucina is your best starter, so I've added 3, of course. Nothing to say there. Her Seal's Interruption is also broken. At regional, I played 2 Tinia, but I went back up to 3 just because, again, I did break a few games where I was supposed to win after I won dice. But she's a ghetto Lucina, right? She just places the continuous spell, so she's not as good, but you should still max out on her because there's only so many elf cards in this deck. I did do 2 Power Patrons as well as Fortuna. You need 2 now that they've released Regina. So there's lines where like you end up on Dragster, Synchron Dragon, as well as Ecclesia because you play 2. You have to play this package, guys, the Vidrium as well as Ginaldo or Vidolium. This is essentially like your Chessy Cat and then your recursion out of the graveyard as well. So it's really, really good. Like this adds this. This can also add a little bit of cards from the graveyard. Again, you're playing the branded version, right? So the branded version does do a little bit of discarding, then your trap might do a bit of discarding, and your continuous spell might do a little bit of discarding. So this card, in conjunction with Regina, essentially solves the hand economy problem we saw last round when we were playing the Fiendsmith package with this deck. 2 Medius, it's all you need, just because you are playing the Fallen of White and Ecclesia, so there is an increased number of normal summons, so 2 is the perfect ratio. You don't want to play just 1. I've seen online people say, oh, I want to cut this to 1. Well, the problem with cutting this to 1 is, well, 1, it could get sniped by, like, Q. Cool Tune Q. But 2, like, let's say you open one of these and then one of the Mediuses. What ends up happening is you can, let's say they don't Ash this and they have Imperm Veiler. What ends up happening is you're going to actually add the Vidrium with your Prohibited, dump a Power Patron, and then your normal summon becomes fake. It becomes a bluff for the Medius because you can just go scale the Vidolium, revive back the Power Patron anyways, and then still do your Synchro 8 lines of play. So definitely play 2 because it can easily noob check your opponent. 1-1 of the continuous spell and the trap. Nothing to explain there. The trap, if it resolves, it can be game ending. I've got for monsters for the branded package 2 Fallen of White, and then 1 OG Baz, and then 1 Ecclesia. Not much to say there. Sometimes, guys, a quick note about Fallen of White. Sometimes what I'll end up doing, like, let's say I open, like, just the portal and then just the Fallen of White. You know, a lot of people might think, oh, just go portal first, then Fallen of White effect from hand, because this locks you. I actually would argue otherwise. What you can actually potentially do is you're going to go Fallen of White first, because your end board under the lock of Synchro 8s and Fusion 8s is actually not even that bad. Yeah, guys, let that sink in. The reason why you want to do this is, like, let's say this gets stopped by Ash, Bell, Veiler, Impermanent. This is going to check a lot of hand traps, and they have to interact with this. Fuvalos, you're checking for Fua. What ends up happening is your Synchro 8 line under the lock, which is Ecclesia, some of like the girls on board, the trap is going to be set because you're going to get access to Fortuna or even the trap directly. You can even also get access to Ginaldo Draw 2. The line under the lock is actually still quite good because it just means you're going to have an Omni Negate, a Super Poly with OG Albaz lines, and then Draw 2 plus hand traps plus, you know, you're going to send Albion off of the Fallen of Light for cost, which means you can set the Fallen of Virtus to either Reborn or Pop. So it's actually quite good. So what I was doing all day long at the regional is, like, go this first. They interact with this, then this becomes live because your normal summon has not been used. And then also your Medius normal under the lock is still quite effective. Another thing you can also consider, like, let's say we open this. Sorry, you didn't open this. You open, like, Lucina with the Fallen of White. You could actually potentially, if you just open, like, you know, Lucina and then Fallen of White. Here I would say, you know, instead of locking yourself, what you could do is actually normal the Fallen of White, and then this can add Regina, which gets you into Regina plus Power Patron onto the board. Then you can go into your Synchro 7 line. So keep that in mind, is, like, you don't always have to just start with your elf cards and then because you're worried about the lock. No, you can actually either normal summon this or use this, considering that you know the lines of what you're going to end on, even if you do get locked. So yeah, just food for thought for the Fallen of White. You can definitely still have some pretty interesting matches by, you know, considering how you want to prioritize your hands. 2 F and V, not much to say there. 2 is the perfect ratio. This format I am maining the Fedralis. It's essentially going to be really good into Doomzed. I do think it's okay into Cool Tune. I don't think you're actually playing this to pop. When you are pairing this with, like, an Impermanence, it's quite good. The pop becomes actually significant because you're going to go chain 2 Fedralis to, like, Q, Cool Tune Q, chain 3 Impermanence. Then it becomes really good. Then you're going to dump Lulu Willith. But what I actually really like this is in this format because, you know, Dracotail's kind of dead, aside from Jesse Cotton's YCS win. But what you're going to do with this is you're going to send Lulu Willith, and it's going to actually shuffle your deck after they top your deck with Q. So it means there's going to be a mystery card that you're going to be top decking. Plus, you're going to start your turn with Ecclesia on board. One thing I'll also recommend is you keep your Ecclesia on board as you're trying to break into their board, because our deck going second is slower than the Cool Tune deck. So you're going to, like, this is what's going to happen game state-wise. You're going to stick your Lucina on board. They're going to interact with it. You're not going to be able to resolve the effect. But that's okay, because you're going to have the Ecclesia on board, if I can find her. Right, you're going to have the Ecclesia on board, summoned in the end phase of your opponent's turn. This is going to, like, play mind games with your opponent. It's going to check your opponent's ability to prioritize their limited resources that Cool Tune has to be able to essentially check this Super Poly that's essentially known information for your opponent on board. So yeah, that's how I've been, like, playing this deck, is, like, I'm going in second if I lose dice into Cool Tune having resolved Harmonia, that all my elf engines are gonna, elf pushes are gonna get stopped. What I'm banking on is to resolve the original Albaz, to fuse into either the Dogma, but more importantly sometimes fuse into the Mirror Jade, clear their board in the end phase, banish some stuff, set up Fallen of and Virtuous to basically conduct a pop, because What can they realistically do if you're gonna pop their monsters, or you're gonna pop their JJ Cool Tune, and then you also landed on an Ecclesia that is essentially gonna inherently board wipe them in the end phase should they think about clearing the Mirror Jade in an incorrect way. They can potentially bounce the Mirror Jade back into the deck using Maker, but honestly at that point, because they've wasted so much resources on your turn trying to like stop your elf lines, what's going to end up happening is, you know, it's usually game on the spot because you're also going to potentially have additional hand traps and interruptions. So yeah, that's how I've been thinking about Harmonia for the matchup. 3 Fua. This is essentially going to be good for like Rogue, anything that is not meta. It's good into Branded, obviously. Also, like Cool Tune, it puts your opponent on like just summon it from the extra deck once and then play like a very mid-range game. 3 Ash, primarily defensive. 3 Bell. I tried to max out on the negation hand traps, but these are still good into Sky Striker and Mitsurugi, so there's an easy, I think, bet for me to keep in. And then Impermanence. Those are the last set of hand traps in the deck. I'm playing 15, and then if you want to add in the 2 fallen versions, it's 17 and 42, non-engine and main. We can get higher post side, which is amazing. I was playing Valor at the original, but I ended up reducing the Valors into the Harmonias just because I was figuring, you know, post Banlist there's gonna be more Cool Tune than like Dracotail and everything. At the original, I don't think I only played 1 Dracotail. And so, yeah, that's the reasoning there. Also, I think Harmonia just makes sense to play like a very good grind game with our opponents, regardless of matchup, whether it's Mitsurugi, Sky Striker, because it gives you that Cool Tune, whether it gives you that, again, that additional super polymerization push through the way of Lulu Wolf into Ecclesia, so that way we have more access into our branded lines. At the regional, the branded cards were actually the heart and soul of the deck. That's why I'm actually going to start playing branded very soon, just because the branded cards actually were the cards that were putting in work. Speaking of branded, extra deck, I've got the OG Ecclesia. That's one of your Synchro 8s, your Omega, as well as your Synchron. Not much to say there. You need to play all 3 of these. For 7s, I did Strelitzia, as well as Dawn Dragster, and as well as the Black Rose. You have to play the Black Rose just because the threat of it is going to make your opponent play in very weird ways in the first place. I did resolve it once into someone who was unaware, and it was kind of actually... It basically turned a game that I was supposed to lose into a game that I won. He had like... It was a Fiendsmith Magnets. He had... basically like Dragon's Mind, Allied Code Talker. He had Caesar on board, Ogre in hand, Magnet set up, and he just... I went, and he also Talent hand ripped my hand, and he just let me resolve Lucina and normal summon Patron. So I went, okay, Synchro 7, Black Rose, Chain 1, Black Rose, Chain 2, Engrave, Power Patron. He had to negate the Power Patron, but then his board was completely obliterated at that point. Even when he had like full hand knowledge through Triple Tactics Talent. So yeah, if you can catch people off guard, it could literally change the trajectory of the game. Also in grind, sometimes you do want to clear board just because your opponent is out of interruptions, but they have crackback, so Black Rose comes up. I only played 2 targets at the regional, and I will continue to do this for the Harmonia Send, Despian, Lulu Willith, as well as Packbit. The reason is this is actually a slot for Chaos Angel and a Harmonia Send, because you can actually make the Packbit. You can make the Packbit, and the Lulu Willith can also be as well as one of your sends for the Harmonia. Psychic and Punisher, Chen Ying. I actually think these are slept on. So you needed a card that essentially turns your Harmonia on board into something live. So any level 4 plus Harmonia is this. And one cool thing that you can also do is, like, let's say you have Ecclesia on board, and then you have the Psychic and Punisher. You could go effect, target your Ecclesia to banish, and then something on the board on your opponent's side to banish. Chain the Ecclesia. You don't actually need to have both cards on board for this to resolve. It resolves as much as possible, so it's quite broken. It's also a good beat stick into Cool Tune. Chen Ying is an end board piece that's really good into Cool Tune as well, because you're going to banish with Tatiana. You're also going to banish with the Ecclesia Synchro. So you can actually control what you're banishing on field, like when you're banishing on field and when you're banishing from the graveyard. And this is one of the few cards in the deck that can banish from the graveyard as a result. What else? What else? Now fusions, the last of the litter. I've got, of course, Albion, the Dogma, Rimbrum, Titaniclad, as well as Mirror Jade. I liked Titaniclad more over Springe. I found Springe's summon was a little bit situational. The Titaniclad summon was a little bit more effective to actually punch for a game because it gets boosted, and it's also a Liger out. Yeah, not much to say there. And then side, I'm doing 2 Droll, the 1 Mag, Call by, Cross Out. You absolutely should be playing, I think, Call by and Cross Out because they're proactive cards to stop the Mulcharmies. This deck does struggle into those cards. Playing a Delta package, and then the Mulcharmy Borrelia, and then last but not least, primarily for Cool Tune and any like Synchro decks, the Solemn Trinity. But yep, that's it, guys. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.